Well, good morning. Good morning. I like this energy. If you've ever had, oh, it doesn't fit. Okay, I was going to say I was going to put it down. If you've ever seen me in front of a group or in front of a microphone, then you're going to realize that we could be here all day. So if it's okay with you guys, I am going to read so that I stay on task because I start to get excited and sometimes can wander and wander. Oh, thank you. Perfect. Can y'all hear me? Well, this has been an extraordinary morning for me, and I was so excited when Russell had asked me to, excited and honored when Russell had asked me to speak this morning at the Haven House rally. It was probably about almost 2 years ago when Chris Chandler, an agent, a great agent in our office, introduced me to the first Haven House meeting that was held at Keller Williams. And it was then that I realized that Mac McCarter and Gary Keller, our founder of Keller Williams, were kindred spirits. They just hadn't met yet. And so it's our goal to get those guys together because they share the same vision. They understand that our true success in life occurs through people. We're the ones that make the difference. We're the ones that make the change. And I'm so proud to be standing here in front of a room full of leaders in our community. What you guys have done is awesome. Russell, that's awesome. Well, my name is Dana Hayes, and I'm the CEO of Keller Williams Realty Northwest. Now, CEO is kind of an ominous term these days, so let me get real for a minute. I serve. That's what I do. I'm a servant leader. And I get to lead some of the finest real estate agents in our community in their careers through coaching, working on business plans, but mainly mindset training. In other words, I serve just like you. I was very fortunate to be led to Keller Williams in my journey because they understand that true success occurs through others. It's part of our belief system. It's part of our culture. So what is culture? You know, there are so many questions that surround that word. So I looked it up. Did you know that there are 11 definitions for the word culture? They didn't all make a lot of sense to me, but one of them came kind of close. They said culture is the sum total of ways of living built up by a group of human beings and then transmitted from one generation to the next generation. Well, okay. We're a group of human beings, and we have lots of different ways of choosing to live our lives, and I suppose it gets transmitted from one generation to another. The good, and unfortunately sometimes the bad. Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, says culture is simply how we interact with each other, what we believe and what we think. He says it's our beliefs that ultimately get played out in our actions. That makes a whole lot of sense. Here's how I define culture. I think culture is a predetermined set of standards of how we treat one another. So what do I mean by that? A predetermined set of standards of how we treat each other. Guys, it's a decision. It's a choice. I believe that the greatest gift God gave us is the ability to make our choices daily. The ability to, no matter what, choose how we are going to behave upon every encounter on a daily basis. Let's face it, we have very little control, if any, of what other people are going to do or say. And if you're married, you understand that in a big way. The culture comes in how we choose to react to each situation. I have a hard time believing that anybody wakes up in the morning and says to themselves, I think I'm going to be a jerk today. Yeah. Or, I sure hope I hurt my neighbor's feelings. Or how about this one? What can I do or say to lower my child's self-esteem? Seems silly, right? Let's face it, these things happen every day, and sometimes we're responsible for them. For whatever reason, the human race has the rare ability to justify their own actions, claiming, well, it wasn't my intent. to make them feel that way. Yet when someone hurts our feelings, we immediately jump to the conclusion that our words or our actions were malicious, and that they must have been sitting up late at night and thinking about the opportunity to get us with that zinger, right? Our actions reflect our culture and the culture that we want to pass down to our children and their children. In that moment when the zinger was thrown our way, we have a choice. We can stand in judgment, or we can choose to stay in discovery and truly find out what our neighbor was feeling that day. But you have to choose this in advance. It has to be started, a standard, a behavior, a belief system that you have to predetermine as part of your contribution to the world. I am going to be a peacemaker. I am going to inspire others. I am going to see the heart in others and understand that when people are angry, they're really just afraid or hurting. Anger isn't real. Fear and hurt are real. Albert Einstein, I like to digress, discovered that all matter was made up of energy. Thank you, Bonnie, for talking about the energy of loving. E equals mc squared, remember? Well, our entire bodies are made up of matter, and every single cell contains and transmits energy. Our words have energy, our actions have energy, even our thoughts have energy. That energy is transmitted through wavelengths to everyone and everything around us. That energy can be positive or negative. Do any of you know someone in your life who's negative? Anyone? I mean, every time you see them coming around the corner, you cringe. Because you know they're literally going to suck the life out of you. Complaining and moaning about their bad things that are happening to them. It seems like they can't get out from under that black cloud, right? It just hovers right over them. Apparently you know this person. Maybe you're sitting next to them. Maybe sometimes you are them. We have to understand that energy works like a magnet, and what we put out comes right back to us. We are collecting positive or negative energy every day. The old saying, garbage in, garbage out, that's backwards. That's backwards. Garbage out is only going to bring more what? Don't be a victim, right? The good news is that positive energy also works as a magnet. If we focus on the positive things in life, the gifts that God has given us, the wonderful things about people that make us all different, and the opportunity for growth in ourselves, every time we run into an obstacle, a situation that causes us to be sad or afraid, the more positive energy will come back to us. This isn't rah-rah energy. This is true. So why don't we put more focus finding the positive sides of situations? Could it be our environment? Maybe. Could it be our circumstance? Probably. I mean, let's face it, bad things happen. Sad things happen. And some of these things we truly can't control, right? Maybe. Let me share a little story with you. It's about a little girl from the deep south down in New Orleans. She was born in 2001 into a family that both wanted her and welcomed her. Her mama swore she came out that womb singing. She was 2 years old when her parents split up. Her home was broken, but she was young and really didn't know it. She just kept singing. She was 4 years old when she and her family got the news that her brother and hero, who had been stationed in Iraq, had been diagnosed with leukemia. Not even a month later, Hurricane Katrina hit her home, and she and her family were forced, as so many others, to evacuate for almost 2 months to live with her uncle and 15 other extended family members.
10 months later, her brother died in a VA hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. He had asked for her just days before, and so she went with her mama and daddy to be with him, and she sang to him and she brought joy and laughter into that dismal VA hospital room. 3 years later, when she was 8, she was asked once again to leave her home because her mother was going to remarry, and this would cause them to have to be uprooted again. That same year, both her grandmother and grandfather were diagnosed with cancer. She was close to both, but her grandfather had lived with her and her mama since before she was born and was pretty much her best friend in life. 6 months after moving, her daddy called to say he hadn't been feeling well and had been checked into the hospital. 22 days later, just 16 days before her 9th birthday, her father died of cancer. Now, this is a pretty extreme example of circumstances beyond our control, I know. It'd be easy to understand if I told you that this little girl was a behavioral problem, right? Always getting in trouble at school, making terrible grades, and making her new stepfather's life miserable, as well as all of the other people around her. And we as a community would say, that poor thing, she's had so much to deal with at such a young age. But that's not the story at all. In fact, on the evening of her daddy's death, after spending an entire day of hysterical crying on and off for hours, to her mama's disbelief, she looked into the living room to find her daughter smiling and singing, while she appeared to be riding a surfboard, a make-believe surfboard. Her mama asked her, "What are you doing?" To which the little girl smiled and said, "I'm riding this wave of change in my life, and now I know sometimes I'm going to fall off my board, but that's okay, Mama, as long as I just keep getting back up." Wow. And the little girl smiled and continued riding her imaginary board and singing. It's important to make mention that the little girl never made anything lower than an A on her report card since entering kindergarten. She continuously receives awards for citizenship and great attitude. Terrific kid. She was elected onto the student council as a leader in her school, and the teachers are always sharing how they wish they had more students like her in the class. She was such a joy and was always willing to share her great attitude with those around her. She has embraced her stepfather with all of the love she once shared with her daddy, and in turn has enriched his life with her warm smile and, yes, her song. So why? Why does this child continue to have such a zest for life after all she has been through in her 9 years on earth? Well, I had the opportunity to ask her just last night as she sat on the edge of my bed. You see, she's not just some little girl. She's my little girl. This is not just some family. This is my family. This is not just her brother. This is my son. So don't judge someone's outsides without knowing what's on their insides. And more importantly, don't use your insides and your circumstances or your situations as an excuse for behaving poorly. If a 9-year-old can do it, we can do it, right? We need to treat each other with love and respect. When I asked my beautiful daughter, Bryn, by the way, Bryn, please stand up. That's my leader right there. When I asked my beautiful daughter, Bryn, as we were sitting on the edge of my bed last night, how she managed to stay so happy and eager and confident after all of the sad things that have occurred in her young lifetime, she looked at me again, as she did on the evening of her daddy's death, and said, as if I were silly for asking such a ridiculous question, "I just focus on all of the positive things in my life, all of the wonderful things that God has given me. There are way more positive things in my life than sad, Mama."
Yeah.
Guys, we have control of our attitudes and our actions, and God has given us the gift of choice in every situation, Every encounter we have in life either builds someone up or tears them down. But don't be afraid. We can decide which road to take. God gave us the gift of choice. We cannot choose others' behaviors in our situations or our circumstances, but we have absolute power to choose how we respond. Choose well. Please choose well. Our actions today create a legacy for tomorrow. But we have to decide. We have to predetermine a set of standards, a culture of how we treat each other, what energy we choose to put out into that universe. Each one of us makes a difference. I'm standing here in a room filled with people who understand this. Leaders by choice in our community who believe that they can create change for the betterment of those around us, one neighborhood at a time. Our community is in crisis, and our state is in crisis, and our nation is in crisis. But we have the power to create the change necessary to prevail. Leaders aren't born during a crisis, they're revealed. You guys have revealed yourselves, and I'm incredibly proud. So my challenge to all of you today is to choose to be better friends. Choose to be better neighbors, better teachers. Choose to be better parents and better children. Choose to be better spouses. My challenge to you is to choose to be the best leaders in your community that you can possibly be. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm ready to vote for her for president. Thanks for that. For being our wonderful keynote speaker. Thank you for being a friend and opening up your heart, your business. We've expanded Haven House because it was this CEO, Dana Hayes, that just allowed us to come and have our way in their training room